Hello everyone, and welcome to my presentation, Conceptions of Community Among Physics Majors and Learning Assistants. My name is Jason Starita. I'm a recent graduate of the George Washington University. My advisors for this project were Dr. Gary White and Dr. Tiffany Sikorsky. So why do we want to learn about the conceptions of community among physics majors and learning assistants? Well, much literature in the PER community has been around students and their physics identity, which is their interest, their belief in their competency, and belief of recognition from others in regards to being a physics person. Now, there's been some literature that suggests that undergraduate teaching assistants or learning assistants can transform their physics identity through instruction and through this program. Now, we wanted to really learn how LAs develop their physics identity as compared to students who do not participate in the learning assistant program. And really, we were interested in two main things. It was how do learning assistants discuss aspects of physics identity when compared to physics majors, and how do conceptions of community affect these two populations' physics identity in general. Now, like I said, this project was very based on the previous literature of physics identity, which was created and verified by Hazari, Locke, and Povin. Now, physics identity consists of three main elements, which is one's interest in physics or their personal desire to learn physics and potentially make a career out of it, their recognition from others, which is how others view someone in regard to being a physics person, and competency or performance, which is the belief in one's ability to understand and perform physics-based content and material. Now, we also drew on the theoretical framework of community of practice created by Lev and Wagner, and this consists of four elements, which are negotiated experience, which is the process of making meaning from the experiences that one may participate in a community. The community membership, which is competency developed through participation in a community. Learning trajectory, which is how past identities and potential future ones can help us make meaning of our current identities. And the nexus of membership, which is how one may reconcile their membership in multiple communities. Now, the Learning Assistant Program is an undergraduate peer assistant program that students are implemented in introductory STEM classes. So we chose the physics learning assistants, those who LA for the introductory mechanics and E&M courses. Learning assistants are really there to transform the classroom into an active learning environment, going around answering student questions, helping them work throughout problems, things like that. And first semester learning assistants, they take a course to learn about pedagogy, best teaching practices, questioning, metacognition, things like that. So how do we go about learning about how physics majors and learning assistants conceptualize community? Well, we interviewed them. We interviewed 15 different students from 3 different populations, 5 students from each population. So first we interviewed learning assistants who are not physics majors. We interviewed physics majors who had not participated in the learning assistant program, and we interviewed physics majors who have participated in the learning assistant program. Now you can see the breakdown of the gender and racial diversity of these populations in Figure 1. So after we had these interviews, we transcribed them and we coded them for common themes that we saw. Now we had more than just these 5 codes to begin with, but these 5 were really the strongest and most consistent throughout the 3 populations, as well as the ones that focused most on community. So they are the community at the home university, which are when students discuss their physics or LA community at GW, their home university, community as a whole, which is how students conceptualize the physics or learning assistant community in general outside of their home community. Using physics to help others, which is how students use physics to interact with those outside of the community. Recognition from an authoritative figure, ways in which students were recognized as physicists or physics people by established physicists, like a professor or something, and varying degrees of physicists, which is how a student may progress through the physics or learning assistant community. Now, I have a few examples of each of these codes and how they were applied. I'm not going to go through all of them just because of the time constraints, but the ones that I really want to hit on are using physics to help others, recognition from authoritative figure, and varying degrees of physicists. So, using physics to help others. Alice, who was a non-physics major learning assistant, says, I just like that I'm able to help in a subject that I feel strong in and I enjoy. If I was LAing for a class that I really hated, I would not be having a good time. But the fact that I'm able to help people, and when they walk away from my review sessions or after I help them, when they actually learn from it, it feels rewarding in that aspect. So here Alice feels that because she is strong in physics and she has the capacity to help students, that is a rewarding experience to her. Recognition from an authoritative figure. Wendy, another non-physics major learning assistant, says, I love the professor, I love how he ran the class, and we were friends. Like we would go for coffee once in a while and hang out. And he was like, do you want to be, I haven't asked you yet, but do you want to LA for this class? And I was like, sure. I had the space in my schedule and it just worked out. And he helped me a lot in the classroom and I just wanted to be able to give back. For Wendy, it was this relationship with her professor that got her involved in the learning assistant program in the first place. And that relationship and that recognition of being someone who may succeed in the learning assistant program is what got her involved in the first place. Varying degrees of physicist. When I'm with my friends who are bio or IA or poli-sci, I'm like, oh, I'm a physicist. Physics is what I do. I know how they think. But when I'm in a setting where people are actual physicists, like they have PhDs or they have multiple degrees and are doing research, I'm studying physics, I am not a physicist. That was from Diane, who was both a physics major and a learning assistant. Now for Diane, she believes that she is a physicist depending on the setting that she is in. When she's surrounded by more established physicists, she may take on an identity more of a student role, but when she is with her friends who are studying things that are not physics, she might take on that role of physicist. Now, what did we learn from this research? Well, we learned that non-physics major LAs, so those who don't major in physics, or I'm sorry, non-LA physics majors, those who have not LA'd, do not talk about recognition from an authoritative figure at the same frequency that those who have participated in the program have talked about. So what does that mean? Well, it could potentially mean that learning assistants feel more recognized from authoritative figures. They might have more sense of recognition due to that is what got them involved in the program, or because they just had more opportunities to talk with professors and things like that. Non-physics majors did not talk about varying degrees of physicists at the same frequency as physics majors did. The reason for that may be due to the fact that they are not studying physics and therefore have not had the opportunity, or maybe just don't identify with the draws and interests that somebody might as well who is studying the material. Using physics to help others was also a predominant theme across all student populations, whether that was helping students in the classroom in an LA capacity or learning as much physics as you can as a student to then use your knowledge to better humanity in some way. That was a pretty common theme across all student populations. Now, what we want to learn in the future is, what we want to learn in the future is to use previously developed codes like those of close, con, and close to verify past findings, which may include other positive outcomes of the learning assistant community that were found by those researchers. We would want to analyze multiple data sets because we only drew on the interviews for this research. It might also be helpful to have other data sets, including the application for the learning assistant program or the field notes that learning assistants have to fill out weekly. And another important thing that we might want to do in the future is to separate students based on their gender or race to learn how these other identities may affect student-like conceptions of community and how these intersecting identities might relate to one's willingness to identify within a certain community. So thank you all for listening, and I hope to answer any questions you all have soon.